Time traveling. What a fascinating idea. Welcome to this preview video for a game hitting Kickstarter crowdfunding really soon, and it's a game which is called Restart, starting all over again, and it's all about space time traveling. We have protagonists, heroes, trying to go back into the history, into the past, trying to change specific courses of events that led to humanity's downfall. In 4 different dystopias, you can have either have a downfall linked with Pandemia, a downfall linked with Anomie, and a downfall linked with Extinction, where mankind cannot longer reproduce. They cannot give birth to children. Humanity. And then the last one, the 4th one, is Oceanrealm, where we have floods, melting of the ices. This is not far from the future, unfortunately. We have to act on it, and the level of the water is rising and flooding areas, and we have to protect them. Each of those dystopias are have drastically impacted the future of humanity, and players are trying to travel back into the past, trying to correct specific events by trying to align specific change of actions of events, so that the dystopia at the end of the round will not, at the end of the game, will not happen, and they will have saved humanity. The game is really amazing. Typically I'm waiting at the end of this video, after I explain my rules, to give you my full opinion, which I will do at the end of this video with a hyperlink and timestamp, so you can go there directly and see my final opinion about the game. I'm going to also have full description of the video rules of how to play the game, and so that you can find out everything you need to know about the components, about how to play, how to set up, and how to do the different actions, the different phases of the game. A full rules breakdown with timestamps, so you can navigate specifically, skip, for example, components or setup if you don't want, and just go to the main actions, etc. So you can find all the details you want. But let me finish with this introduction. It's as I said, I'm going to give my full opinion right away. It's a game that I was blown away with. I really enjoy engine building games. It's a favorite genre of mine. I have many engine building games. I like them both in games where it's the main aspect of the game, but also in other games which is just a mechanism together with others. In this game, there is a very sweet balance. The game has a very strong engine building character. Progression, becoming better, having synergies, improving yourself, and then there is the aspect of taking advantage of the opportunities for improving the dystopia itself, of rolling dice and trying to mitigate dice and become better at mitigating dice for finding a cure and researching the virus, or passing bills and laws for a future where people respect the laws and we have law and order, and humanity prospers, or for finding a solution about what the heck happened and why people cannot have children in the future, which is extinction, or to protect the rise of the water and the flooding and the destruction of specific areas by protecting wildlife, forests and lakes according to the melting of the ice which is happening. So all this is really thematically nicely blended with the game, but it's a game that I should say it gives a very strong element and character of engine building, with the card play, which is exceptional, with pattern building, which is really nice, and it has the specific unique character of the Dystopia / module. And let me put it straight out of on the table. It feels like, and maybe the exact number is not correct, but just to give you an idea, that the 70% or 60% of the game is what I described to you: the engine building, the card play, fascinating, amazing, could be a game on its own, and it has another 30% which is different for each of the 4 dystopias. So it's like having 4 values, 4 games in one box, with each of them having separate solo mode which plays differently, and also having different ways to play the game with different modules, variants, etc. And they also have planned and announced another separate expansion with cyber zombies, which I'm really looking forward to find out. It sounds fascinating. All in all, I have to say that the theme of the game is very nice. I really like space travel. I haven't done it myself. I'm trying daily to achieve it, but I think I'm far away from achieving its goal. But as an idea, as a concept, I mean, in movies, in books, in novels, it's a fascinating idea that you have the ability to go back and travel into the past to correct the mistakes, to redirect small things that put them together on a grand scale view, from a bird's eye view. You can make a change and avoid a dystopian future where something bad happens in humanity, What a great, elegant idea. As I said before, it would be much better if we don't have to rely on either imaginary or possible time travel. Hopefully at this point it's fiction, okay? But you never know. It cannot happen, but you never know. That's why all these movies, all these books, all these stories, comic books are very successful about time travel. But let's try, this is just a message from my side, let's try to be more thoughtful, and we don't have to have space time travel to correct things. We can change things from now, and we be more mindful about our nature, about our legacies, our, you know, everything. That being said, the game is really, really fun. Extremely fun. It's very easy to get behind. It may seem that it's you know, too much information on the cards, or if you, one of my main concerns, for example, was if I'm sitting across, how I'm going to read the text. It doesn't matter if the card is there. It's just a color, just a type. So you're just trying to make patterns to change a sequence of events so that you have an impact. You validate a chain of event cards, and then you gain points. So this abstract slash pattern building aspect of the game is fantastic. It has the engine building, which is fantastic. It has the theme, which blends nicely because you have two miniatures. You have your space traveler adult future self, which comes back into the past and he moves around the grid, the space-time grid, with event cards, and you have your younger version of yourself, which is at the current age, and it's progressing through the 3 rounds of the game. So you cannot meet yourself, and this is depicted very easily and nicely and thematically, in my opinion. You cannot meet your younger self in the same space because you create a paradox. Yeah, you cannot meet other space travelers, adult versions of other space travelers, because you again created a paradox. But you have all the rest of the positions to move around and trying to manipulate things, to balance, to make your change and gain victory points from there. Extremely satisfying. I was blown away by the game. I originally tried it on a tabletop simulator with one of the designers, had an amazing blast. I won them, by the way. I'm not bragging, but just to show you that you know, if you play your cards well, if you try different things, you have chances even from your first play with the designer who had designed the game and had numerous sessions. But I wasn't happy because I won the game. I was happy. I'm never happy because I win the games. I always am happy when I see the possibilities, the replayability, the options of such games, and this is a fascinating and amazing design. It has, I can't stress enough how much value it has in terms of gameplay. Tremendous value, tremendous replayability out of the box with no expansion at all, okay? But you want to get it all. I want to get it all. Tremendous replayability, a lot of value throughout. Also the engine building, combining cards, I mean, it's on its own, it's a huge amount of replayability. Most engine building cards, games have a massive amount of replayability. On top of that, you have the 4 modules, the 4 dystopias, and they give you 4 slightly different games, which play really well, really different from each other. And one is more luckily based, more quick, more easy, or low complex. One is more complex, no luck at all, more heavy, takes a bit longer, and you have 4 options. Plus you can add the modules, etc., and it gives you a lot of value. I'm going to add a link in the description of the video below so that you can find a link on the crowdfunding Kickstarter campaign page, so you can go and subscribe if you haven't done it for some reason already. I'm going to add timestamps for the duration of this video, for you can jump directly to specific sections of the video: introduction, theme, setup, final conclusion and impressions, and so on. And I'm going to come back at the end of this video for a wrap-up with my first impression from the game, both from my solo experience, from my multiplayer experience, from my online experience, and why I really think that this is an amazing game that should definitely add to your library, and you will no wonder enjoy it. I'm convinced that people who like engine building games, they're going to love this game, and I'm really happy for more players to find out about this game and discover it, because it's a really big one. I mean, you know when you try it or when you find out more. So join me at the table and show you how the game works. Restart, said the big neon sign that lit up the sky as the time machine made a digital rattling sound. In an instant, the future had become nothing more than a distant echo in your ears. The despair and hope in the eyes of your friends and family make your load a lot heavier. They expect you to save them, and you know it. The whole future is counting on you. However, as the vortex of time is rapidly sucking you in, you realize that this is not a Sunday's walk to the park. In fact, this is the wildest ride of your life. You feel like half a century has passed, but it has only been moments. Your head is heavy and dizzy. You take a deep breath and try to focus, but your mind is crumbled. It is as though pieces of it were left behind and got lost during your travel. Valuable fragments of your perception and intelligence, memories, everything that shaped you. Good thing you still have the traveler's guide, as it seems you need to start with the basics. The goal of the game is really about time traveling. The goal of your journey is clear. Though your head is still spinning like a roller coaster, you must change the course of the past events to save the future world by spending time and gaining prosperity. The game is played over 3 rounds, where players take turns performing various actions, and when enough events have been changed, the end of the round is triggered. At the end of the 3rd round, the journey ends, and the time traveler with the most points is declared the winner and protagonist of this journey. Before we start with anything else, let's familiarize ourselves with the components of the game. The game you see in front of you is already set up for a session with 2 players and theoretically using the Pandemia module. For those of you who are new to Restart, it's a fascinating game with engine building, as I have mentioned, that has 4 modules, and by selecting which module you want to use, a substantial part of the game is changing. Combined with the common DNA of the engine building and time traveling, which uses the card play. Now, the components you see in front of you are set up so that they can start directly showcasing you how you play a 2-player game of Restart using the Pandemia, the first introductory, let's say, or proposed module to start with, or dystopia, how these modules are called better from the publisher. But you'll see that I have also spread out components, which I'm going to refer briefly now. For the remaining of the modules, briefly to mention, we have besides Pandemia, which is using this side of the board, the lab. We have Anomie, which is using the flip side of the board. I'll show it to you later. We have then Extinction, which uses the cards with the X and Y's. We have also the Oceanrealm, which uses pen and pencil approach. So 4 modules, okay, and some of the components, the majority of the components are common, but they are specific components like card decks or boards that they only go depending on which dystopia module you're playing the game with. Right, so the first thing that we see in front of us is obviously the Pandemia research or Anomie Congress double-sided board. It's this board here. I have already added some tokens there, but that's fine. This is for the 2 players, just going to flip them. This is the Pandemia side of the board, which has 2 tracks. I'm going to explain how this works during the how to play rules down the road, but these are 2 tracks that they go around the lab, and it's nice because if you focus on the art, it has different sections of the research which is progressing, and it's become better and better until theoretically both the vaccine and the virus and the cure are researched fully. So this is this side of the board, and it's a dual-sided because from the back side, on the flip side, you have the Anomie board with the Congress, where you use these markers here, these wooden markers, which you don't use in the Pandemia, to try to pass bills and laws so that you can score the most points and restore, let's say, law and order in the future. So this is the main board, which is used in those 2 respective modules. Then we have the player board, which it's a piece of art. I've done a separate prototype unboxing video where I focus on the components, but still I like to highlight that this is maybe one of the most amazing player boards that I have seen. It's I don't know, quadruple 10 times layered recessed, I don't know how you can call it. Still, it's under optimization for optimum ergonomy from the publisher, from what I know. But this board is used in all of the cases. This is essentially your the fragments that you're looking for, the perception, the intelligence, and the memory, and this is the slots for the different cards. We'll explain how these work. This is a module where you have you place your character, which has a special ability, as you'll see. This is of course valid for all modules. And here on the side you have a module where you keep your let's say chain cards. You'll see how these chain cards work standing but also away from the eyes of your opponents. Here is the whole turnaround and how it's captured in a nutshell, regardless again of module. And then at the bottom you insert this motherboard or whatever you want to call it. So you have the optimization. For example, these are the bonuses that you can mitigate the dice, because the Pandemia module has dice, but you can really work around to make whatever you want if you progress on the bonuses you receive for each of the slots. So this is like a reminder, okay? And here there are 2 slots for the modules that you can install, the gadgets, sorry, as they call. And on the flip side, these are for the other remaining modules or dystopias. Okay, so each player is going to take one of those. These, of course, they have a fantastic system. Again, this is prototype, but just to show you that these are open like that, so it stays a bit tilted. Okay, it has slots for the buried cards, it has slots for the fragments you recover, the adrenaline pills. Okay, it has fitting parts for the lower part, which goes together with a specific dystopia, boards so that you can flip both your hero or your pattern cards from one on the other, so that you keep them away from your player, the eyes of your opponents. And then you have also some pegs, so you can put some wooden pegs, so not only it is tilted like that, but also a bit elevated. Okay, so it's a piece of art, really. Anyway, each player is taking one of those boards. These boards are called the main boards of the player. Okay, so essentially the mind of the player, so where they collect all their memories in order to restore their plan. Then as I mentioned, we have for each player one of those boards for the pattern cards. Just briefly to show you, this is to place pattern cards which you're trying to make in different slots. Okay, so they are like that, a bit tilted away from the eyes of the opponents. In addition, here we have a slot for your characters. We have 4 characters. I'm sure they're going to unlock more. This game, mark my words, is going to be a huge success because it's amazing, and the more people that discover it, the more amazing stretch goals I'm sure they're going to unlock. But there are, going back to the heroes, we have 4 heroes which have the respective cards. As they can see, these are the hero cards. They have their ability there, which is really important. You can get a lot of synergy and benefits if you use their ability, and a fantastic art. Okay, so all the cards have a large size, the same size except from the small mini decks. But these are the 4 heroes I just want to briefly show you. Right. That being said, the game comes with absolutely amazing miniatures. I'm not going to, just to show you the miniatures. You have 2 versions of yourself. You have the younger version because, of course, you're time traveler, so you travel back in time. You're trying to correct the set of events to correct the dystopias. All right, that's the theme of the game, and it's great. So you have color bases, and you have your time traveler. Okay, and you have the younger version of yourself, which is a bit smaller miniature, but still with great resemblance, great attention to detail. Okay, they have color bases so you can see which mini you're playing. So in this grid down the game, you're going to be moving both your, as the era progresses, both your younger self, but also your time traveler. But you cannot, and this is a fantastic thematic perk of the game, you cannot meet yourself because you're going to create a paradox. Okay, so each player has 2 minis. Okay, their small younger version starts, as we'll see, part of the setup at the bottom, which is Era 1, Era 2, and Era 3, the 3 rounds of the game. And this is Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3. So these cards, these are like placeholder cards. They make a grid. The grid is different, as you'll see during setup. But this could be 4x4, depending on the number of players, or 3x3, for example, for a 2-player game. Just briefly to show you again the remaining of the miniatures. If you have already seen the prototype unboxing, you can skip to the next part from the timestamps below, where I go directly into the rule description on how the game plays. Okay, so just to show you the last mini with its younger self. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Right, so we have then a number of tokens. These are adrenaline pills, which you'll see as I will explain. They're really useful because they are victory points at the end of the game if you don't spend them. But if you use them during your action phases, you can boost your cards and reach up to higher rewards for assistant auxiliary free actions. These are time tokens, a precious resource. Okay, we pay a lot of things with time tokens in the game. This is also very important, really important, because it's called fragment. So the more we progress in the game and the better we become, we pick up, and the more pattern cards we complete, we pick up a fragment pieces. So essentially means that we remember a vital important information from our major plan on how to correct the events that led to the pandemia or whatever dystopia we're playing. These go into these slots, as you'll see, and I'll explain later. And when you play these cards in the respective slots, you see the cards will go into the anatomy. They have all sorts of things, but they have additional icons on the side that if you have received or accessed enough fragment pieces, it's like you're charging your specific section, in this case your intelligence, and then you have access to the additional potential extra icons and actions during your turn and make it more powerful. Right, I'm going a bit here and there, but just to make a bit of thematic explanation of the components also. These are the void tokens. These are only used in the Pandemia module. These are used to change a card into a different color, because essentially, as you'll see, we have event cards. So just let me show you some of those of level 1, 2 and 3, and you see the level by the dots here, where you have a pattern card. Okay, and if you make during your turn this pattern and you're able to validate it, so green, green, yellow, could be here, here or here, exactly with this orientation, and then you need to have two time resources to spend them, and once you validate it, you receive the card, so it's victory points at the end of the game. Theoretically, you did something in this chain of events to correct the course of action and one step closer to avoiding the dystopia. So this is what the players are doing mainly. And then these are, again, we have different levels. This is level 1, as you see, we give 5 points. Level 2, which they give 7 points, a bit more complex or difficult to make, but they reward you more. Okay, and the last level is level 3 with the 3 dots, which are more complex, but they give you 13 points, so 5, 7 and 13 points. Okay, so you have a variety of access to those during the course of the game. Right, then so this is the deck of event cards, or I should say not event cards, these are called the chain cards. Okay, but they're linked with events. All of these are events, so I've made the grid with event cards and this huge deck of cards plus this market offer, which is 3 cards. It's all the event cards, and they are multi-use cards, either for the color, either for the bonus actions or the action here. Okay, and they give you also possibilities to get the patterns and gaining points, or get better engine building and become better, and so on. Okay, so lots of these cards used in all of the dystopias or on the pandemics, and these are called event cards. Okay, we have the deck, we open 3 here during setup, and the grid here, which is different depending on the number of players. Right, next thing I see is we have the gadgets. Now the gadgets, as you can see, have already inserted 2 here. I don't have them, I need to pay them to enable them, more on that later. But there are different gadgets which essentially, they have boards, so really cool, right? So once you pay them, you insert them and you get additional abilities, which is really nice. And as you'll see, we have different gadgets depending on the module you're playing. And when if you get the Cyber Zombies expansion, which is a separate one from what I've seen, and I was really happy to hear about it, I suppose they're going to also have additional gadgets for these cards. Okay, right, so you use a specific gadget deck depending on the dystopia module you're playing. That being said, we also have bits and pieces linked with the other modules. For example, the X and Y Z deck are with this Extinction module. We have pencils, which are not shown here, and pads where you have you write on the pad. Okay, and this is linked with the Oceanrealm module, which again you use a crowd engine building, but you don't have a lab or Anomie or Pandemia. You have this area where you're trying to theoretically save different areas of the world. It's like water world, like floods, etc., and you're trying to make the best of it. There are some tokens for solo. There are additional, we've seen the really nice dice. These are only used in the Pandemia first module, which is a recommended one to start. which has three phases: the virus, the cure or vaccine. I used to call them yellow and green, not to get confused, but this is a virus, this is a cure, okay? And these are special sites that you enable them if you have developed your skills from the bonus that we discussed before. First player token. And I believe that's it. I may be forgetting something, but again, I have only set up one player board, but each player is going to take one of the player boards. You're going to use event cards, and then depending on the module slash dystopia, you're going to have separate pieces that click together with the rest of the components to make up a unique and interesting game. So there you have it. These are all the components of the game, at least in the prototype form. So I'm going to go through the setup now. Just keep a note that this is a basic setup for the first game with the Pandemia dystopia, after which you can add extra modules with other dystopias to give the game more strategic depth and flavor, and really tailor approach it based on the you know, if you want more strategy, a bit of luck with the dice, more complexity, etc, etc. I'll show you a very interesting table at the end once I have explained all the dystopias. So if it is the first game, it's recommended that you play a two-player game to familiarize yourself with the rules and use the Pandemia module that you see here. So, setup. Setting up your equipment is probably one of the most important things you need to do first. The first thing we do is we decide who is going to be the first player, and we give them the first player token, which is this one. He keeps it, he or she keeps it near their player board, and the person to their left is going to be the second player, and so on. Secondly, we shuffle the event card deck to create the events cards, which is this deck that I showed you here with the blue background. And the amazing art, I have to really emphasize every time. You draw 12 event cards from the top of the deck and place them face up on the table to create a 3-row 4-column grid. So 3 by 4, 3 rows and 4 columns. Of course, in a two-player game like the one I've set up here, instead you draw 9 event cards and you create a 3 by 3 grid. Okay, 3 columns, 3 rows. This is called the space-time grid. The leftmost column in a zone in the space grid is called zone 1. So this one is zone 1. This one is zone 2, and this one is zone 3. By the way, saying it directly from the beginning, we're going to be playing cards on these spots, so there's going to be more than one card on each spot, and only the one that's on the top matters, okay, for any reason. But in any case, as I mentioned, this is zone 1, this is zone 2, and this is zone 3. And following that, we have to also explain the rows, which are called ages. So the age 1 is this one, the age 2 is this one, and the age 3 is this one. So you can easily say that by having, for example, indicating zone C 3, that you go directly to 1, 2, 3, okay, and here. So you can even have a grid of coordinates, let's say, to refer to specific card or event. So then the next thing that we do is we draw 3 more event cards from the top of the event deck and place them face up under the space-time grid, leaving some room for a row of chain cards to be placed later. Okay, I have squeezed things a bit differently here to make sure that they fit nicely into my you know, screen, my ratio of what I'm recording, but you can move generally things around. Okay, they don't have necessarily to be even in the way that it's described in the rulebook. You can move the grid elsewhere, have the board if you're playing a dystopia with the board somewhere else, etc. But you need to understand what's what. This is a space grid, okay, the active events space grid where we're going to be moving and doing things. Okay, not like that. Like that, you move in the same age and then you progress in age with the younger self. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to have a deck of event cards and 3 offer. So this is a market where you collect event cards. You collect either from the 3 here or from the close from the face down from the deck. Then, starting with the first player, we take and we deal 7 face down event cards from the top of the event deck to each player. So each player is going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. Okay, their starting hand. So don't worry, they are going to make more sense later on, but this is your starting hand and this is supposed to be only visible to you. Okay, people shouldn't know what cards you have, so this is the starting hand you have from event cards. Then we place the rest of the event cards near the space-time grid, and as I said, I will make sure to leave some space next to it for a discard pile, probably on the left or somewhere near. The next thing we do is we divide our chain cards by category. So level 1, level 2, 2 dots, and level 3. Okay, so these are, if you just focus on the dots, it's easy to identify them. Don't worry about the art. So once we've done that, we've separated each deck by level from the chain cards. We shuffle each deck separately, and starting with the first player, we randomly deal to each player 2 level 1 cards for each player, then 2 level 2 cards, okay, and then 1 level 3 card. So they're going to have 1, 1, 2, 2, 3. Okay, so this is what they get at the beginning. If this is the first game, it's recommended that you return all the remaining level 3 chain cards back to the box. Because they're more difficult to make them, but still you can try to avoid them or get them out for your first game altogether. Then you shuffle the remaining chain cards into one deck here, mixing level 1, level 2 and level 3. Okay, and once you've done that, you place it near the space-time grid, and then you create an offering, a face-down offering of chain cards depending on the number of players. So you select 3 face-down cards per player, so meaning in a 2-player game you need to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 times 3. Okay, if we're playing 3-player game, this will be a 9, so 3 times for each player participating in the game. This face-down chain, so it's a deck, okay, you know what's up, it's upcoming level 1, doesn't matter much, but what it's available at the moment are these chain event cards, which you will be replenishing once you complete some from your hand, but it's again as it is. Randomly level 1, 2 or 3, whatever you have from the deck. Keep in mind that you need to place 1 fragment token on top of each of those cards, and it's a good reminder because when you pick up one of the cards you also gain 1 fragment token. Okay, more of that later. The next thing we do, this is only for the Pandemia dystopia only, we place the research board, which is this one, and the 6 research dice clear nearby. Okay, now they're off camera, but I have them near the area which I'm going to be rolling them. You can use a dice tray if you have, and you have them all together so that you can use them to progress on this research track. Next, we give each player a mind board that I have demonstrated before, a chain board, and a character board to place your character card. Give each player 2 figures matching the character that they want to pick up. Okay, so these are the figures, and 2 matching color-based bases so that you can easily distinguish to which player they belong. Okay, we have the time traveler and the younger or child version of yourself. So you have these minis to start the game, and then the next thing you need to take is you need to have 6 as part of setup adrenaline pills, 7 time tokens. You start the game with those. Okay, and this is called your personal supply, and it's kept near your mind board. Also keep in mind that for Pandemia dystopia only, and let's move now to the lab board, you give each player 4 progress markers matching their player color. Okay, each player needs to have 2 near the bottom left side of the lab board, so 1 that is going to be used on the outer track and 1 is going to be used on the inner track. Okay, and then you also have 2 more that they're going to place them here, because as I will explain, so 1 here from your color and 1 there, linked referencing the respective track. So this is the, let's say, triangle track, which is the virus, and this is the circle track, which is the cure with the green vaccine. Okay, and you can see the circle and triangle there. You need to have one of those here because at some point, as I will explain later, you can negate all the negative dice rolls that you don't want by progressing down each time down this track for each of the tracks that you're playing. But it has a cost, because at the end of the game you're going to lose, for example, here 5 victory points. Okay, more on that later. So, but that's only used for the Pandemia dystopia only. Now, the next thing we do is we place the remaining fragments nearby. I just use some containers of my own. Void tokens, which you use only in the Pandemia game. time tokens and adrenaline pills and make a supply, because you're going to use them a lot during the course of the game. The last step is used for the Pandemia dystopia only. You shuffle all the Pandemia dystopian gadgets. Okay, they have the matching icon for the dystopia, the Pandemia. So you can skip it, you know, for the first for your first game. But if you're comfortable enough, you can use it. That's not difficult. Okay, but in any case, what you do is you shuffle the Pandemia gadget cards deck, and you place 2 cards face up per player. So you take the cards. So if we're playing a 2-player game, I need to create an offer of 4 face-up cards somewhere. If I'm playing a 4-player game, I need to create an offer of 8 face-up again. Okay, so once you've done that, the first player chooses a gadget to buy, and you spend adrenaline pills from your supply in order to buy it. Okay, paying the corresponding cost in adrenaline pills, or passes. Choice continues clockwise. When everyone has chosen a gadget card or passed, the last player chooses, going backwards, a second gadget. It cannot be the same like the first, if they want. It's not mandatory, it's optional. Choice continues in reverse order until each player has chosen or passed for the second time, and paying, of course, again in adrenaline pills. Okay. Gadgets grant special abilities that will help you in your actions to find a cure for the virus. So once you have them installed, they're going to be inserted like that. If you bought 2 of them, for example, or maybe you don't buy any of them, it's up to you if you want to spend your adrenaline, and then you're going to have the respective ability. So that's the end of the setup. So Pandemia. Pandemia is the first of the dystopias, the first module, which in the first way, or the at least proposed way to play the game. Pandemia, you scream in fear and horror. This dystopia is for those who want to try their luck at dice rolling and mitigate it to their advantage. It is a module that has, of course, the element of the luck linked with the fact that you roll dice. But so the publisher ranks it at 4 out of 5 in terms of luck. But I tend to highlight that I found it really important that you can mitigate to a very high level the amount of luck. It has 2 out of 5 strategy, it has 1 out of 5 complexity, that's why it's the first one that it introduced and proposed to be the first one you play the game with, and in terms of duration is 1 out of 5. So it's an excellent way to start learning the game before you move to the other dystopias modules. Now, another thing to mention is that we have the gadgets, and the gadgets of the Pandemia are, as I mentioned, the green ones. Okay. Gadgets may seem like a pretty good opportunity for equipment after your first game of travel journey, and each gadget card appears twice in the deck, so we have quite a lot of variety. It gives you a special ability related to the side mission of the future dystopia you're playing, and you use them to the advantage and your experience for the full thrill of the game using the Pandemia dystopia. Keep in mind that if the text in any of the gadget cards conflicts with an action rule, always follow the text of the gadget card. It's an interesting module, aspect of the Pandemia module, and it gives you additional layers of improving and becoming better if you take good use of them. Now let's focus on the turn sequence. There is a different play rate depending on the actual dystopia that you're playing. So I'm using, as I'm starting to explain the game with the Pandemia module, I'm using this one to show you the course of the sequence of the game. So the turn sequence, it's also included on your mind board, and this is really important because, as you will see, it guides you very easily from left to right with the different phases of the game, showing icons as you progress from the study phase to the perception phase to the intelligence phase, and then to the memory phase. Okay, and then discard and make the upkeep. So everything is captured really nicely at the bottom of your mind board, but there is also a very nice play rate which shows the different phases. So first of all, the first thing that we have is the fact that each turn has 4 phases, and each player, when they are active player, they play all their 4 phases before play continues to the next player on the left. So the first phase is the study phase. It has this icon, and again, as you will see, it is captured on your mind board at the beginning of your play. So first phase is a study phase, and this is a phase where you of course have the sorry, this is a chaos turn. Yeah, these are the special automa play rates. That's why it has it mentions the chaos. Okay, chaos is the automa. So this is the general one. Okay, yeah, my bad. Okay, so the first is the study phase, where you may study an event by playing time tokens, paying with time tokens. Then you move to the perception phase. In the perception phase, you perform the basic actions. You move one of your figures and you cause an event, and you activate any secondary perception actions in any order, trying to validate chains if possible, or pass altogether to gain one void token. Then you move to the third phase during your player turn, which is the intelligence phase. You perform plan A or plan B action, and any activated secondary intelligent actions in any order, or pass to perform each action twice in your memory phase, and essentially gain more rewards, more resources, etc. This is the part of the game which is linked with the dice rolling and the Pandemia laboratory. The last phase is the memory phase, where you perform the basic actions. You gain time tokens, and you draw an event and any activated secondary memory cards. When we say activated secondary memory cards or cards in together, we mean the side cards that you have enough fragments and or adrenaline boost pills in order to activate the secondary actions on the respective slot. This is in each of the cases, in each of the phases. So during that, you perform the draw event and any activated secondary memory actions in any order to increase your supply, essentially. Okay. Keep in mind that there is a series of free actions that you can do. You can use void, you can recover fragments when gained, you can gain adrenaline, use adrenaline before its action, etc. Okay, and keep in mind that if an event card, in any case, the event card text conflicts with a rule, always follow the text on the card. If it is your first turn, before you perform any other action, you must discard, put on the bottom of the chains deck any extra chain cards until you have 3 in your hand. You must also place your child figure on any space in age 1 of the space-time grid. Your adult and child figures cannot meet, stand on the same space, so choose carefully where you want to place it, planning ahead. In addition, you may study one event card from your hand on your mind board for free. Let's see how all these steps work. That means, remember, during setup we got 2 level 1, 2 level 2 and 1 level 3. So you can select whatever mixture you want, so you can go for easy options, or get, maybe I would get the 2 easy ones, level 1 because they're easy to make, and then maybe I can get a level 2 and discard the second level 2 and the level 3, which I think it's more difficult for the beginning. So I would get 3. In any case, you select which ones you want to keep. You keep them as your personal supply of chain cards, okay? And the rest ones, you discard them, all players do this simultaneously, at the bottom of the chain cards deck. The next thing that you do, and let me show you how, again, this is done quickly. Starting with the first players and going clockwise, you select and place your younger self on age 1. Age 1 means here, here, or here. So I cannot place it here. Age 2 will progress from between rounds, or here, this is age 3. So either here, here, or here. So you select the column, okay, based on your plans. Because you need to spend moving actions to move them otherwise, and during era 1 your younger self can only move in these spots because the timeline is here, okay, the present is here. So every player are placing their younger selves in one of those, and during the course of the game, when you're going to move, you can select to either move one of your younger self or bring into the game, and your time traveler can go, of course, in future eras, okay, or even in the present, but they cannot meet their younger self because they would create a paradox, okay, but this will be part of your actions later on. So during setup you only place your younger version. Also, the last thing that you need to do, as I said, is you need to discard the cards, place your your younger self there, and from your starting 7 cards that you received, event cards, this is a hand you have, you select one, and it makes sense sometimes to go for the more expensive ones because it's the only time that you won't pay the cost to study, because during study phase you pay the cost. I will need to spend 3 time tokens, which I also need in order to validate later on, which is important. Okay, so you select one of the cards you want to do, because also keep in mind on the icons, because you will reach them easily. So if you want to have a good icons, or depending on if you want to have more resources, if you want to have more playing more cards, or berry cards, or study more, etc., in addition to the one that you start at the round, you place it. Let's say I'm going to use this one. Okay, I'm selecting to go for schools or universities, and I need to place it here. So I'm going to come back in the anatomy of the cards in a sec, but you see this is an intelligence card, so you can only go here. When you study, you place it here. Normally you will need to pay. Here as part of setup, I don't pay at all the 3 or whatever cost what I have selected. The rest of the cards remain as a closed hand in my possession. And that's everything to start the game. Now let's move to the event cards. Now the event card, the anatomy is very simple. First of all, here we have the type of the event card, essential for creating chain card patterns on the space-time grid. That means this is a yellow card. Okay, it has this icon. Okay, specific colors relate to specific categories of cards. So we have a purple, blue, yellow, green, etc. Okay, and you see that you use them. You need the color for your chain patterns that you need to create and validate. But here is the type of the card, of the event card, and here is the title, the name of the main event card. This is Self Energy. The art is fantastic. Okay. And it's unique. That's another amazing fact. Then you have icons or dots. When you have dots, you don't have icons. They don't have to be consecutive. You can have an icon, dot, victory point, space, dot, whatever, you know what I mean? So it doesn't mean it'll be fully filled, and they're not most of the times. What I mean here in this case, it starts with nothing in the first tier, and then something on the second, third, and then nothing on the fourth, etc. So that it's different in that way. These are called the actions and prosperity points. So once you have enough fragments here, more on that later, and adrenaline boost appeals, you have access to more things. Also for victory points at the end of the game, because if you have no fragments or here, you will not get neither this point nor this point, and you will not have also access during this, especially if you don't spend any adrenaline pills. These are called actions, additional actions, let's say, or auxiliary actions, extra from the ones on your main phase, plus prosperity points that you secure for the end of the game, or trying to work towards securing them. Here it's the minefield of your mind board, where you may place the study on your mind board and in the category it belongs. So it could be either this eye, which is perception. Okay, it could be this brain icon, which is the memory, and it could be more memory, Murphy's law. This a cog icon, which is the one in the middle slot, which is the intelligence. Okay, and these are not necessarily linked with colors. You can have any type of card / color with any type of minefield. The next thing that you see here is the flavor text, and it's really nice because it also gives you thematic immersion. And here is the cost in time tokens. Time tokens you have to pay to study the event card at the beginning of your turn. For the setup we did it for free, but moving forward with study phase you need to pay to place one card in one of your slots. Last but not least, we have the text benefit, okay, which could be something ongoing. It could be something that you gain once it's activated. So it's like a payoff that you play when you play it on the grid. So if you play it on the grid and place it, then you do the text. If you place it on your main board, there you focus on points and auxiliary icons, actions. and that's part of the multi-use of the cards. And the last thing that you have is, of course, the art, which is here, and that concludes the anatomy of the events card, which is the big I would say engine around the whole game. Everything evolves around them. Okay, now let's go in more depth in each of the phases. So we said the first thing that you do when you start the game, your turn, is this phase, which is the study phase. While in your study phase, and it's only the first icon, this is called study phase, what you do is you can study an event card from your hand onto your mind board, which may give you additional actions during the game and prosperity points at the end. How you do it in practice? Study an event card, which is a basic action. So you play one of the cards in one of the slots, not necessarily here, it could be here, here, or here, but wherever it goes you need to match the mind field with the respective section. So I cannot play this card here because this is a perception card and this is a memory slot. Okay, so all perception cards needs to be on the perception slot. So I study one card from my hand, I pay one resource token to the supply, okay, for this study, and then I have access in my board for these icons if I build up to them, and also for theoretically the points that I can get at the end if I manage to build up to them. Keep in mind that moving forward you will be, once you study or from bonus, or either from this type or as a bonus from things that you gain down the road, when you study you're going to be playing cards here. It could be in some state in the game that you have cards already in the slots. If you want to study, and it's happened frequently in the game, you place on top of the other card. That doesn't mean you lose the points of the other cards if you reach them with fragments. More on that later at game scoring. But what you do is you switch strategy, because before, let's say, you were getting these icons, potentially, now you're getting this icon. So it could be a switch of strategy in the course of the game. So when you study more, you can keep playing cards, and then you'll score all of the cards if you're eligible at the end of the game, but you don't have to worry that you don't discard the card, but you lose the icons, because now you have only the icons on top. So this is a tactical action, and you don't get to do it in every turn, the study, especially if you already have very powerful cards and you don't want to mess up with the icons and the synergies. But you could still switch strategy in mid-game, and that can also prove to be useful and powerful. I've done it and it helped me a lot in some cases. And this is everything you need to know about the study phase. Now, then after study phase we move to the perception phase, which is here, and it's linked with this icon. In the perception phase, you perform actions on the space-time grid. We'll move the camera there in a sec. And there are 3 basic perception actions. You can perform any of them in any order or skip them. So, move either your adult mini or your child figure. Okay, your younger self or your time traveler. You can cause an event card on the space-time grid by playing a card. And you can validate a chain card from your hand. We'll explain how this is done, all of these are done in practice, but you don't have to do them in turn, so I don't have to move first, then play a card, then validate. I can move, validate, and play a card, or even skip some of them, or do whatever I want. And once you have already studied cards there, you also get access, because theoretically you're going to have fragments there to boost the access to upper, more icons. Okay, so let's say I was somehow like that. You can either also have adrenaline pills that they boost you temporarily, but anyway, in this case, in the perception phase, I would have access to 1 movement, as I said, 1 play card or cause an event, 1 validate a card, chain card, 1 other secondary play card, the point is for the end, and 1 assist icon. So this is really important, because you do them with any order. I can do first assist, then play a card, then play another card, then move, then validate, or some or any of them. Okay, and this is valid for all of the phases of the game. You do them with any order you want. Now, let's see first the move icon. Okay, so I'm explaining this. You can get it also from other cards as an auxiliary card, as supportive auxiliary action or supportive action, etc. But also when you have it here as a main action in the perception phase, you have the move, which is basic action. you can place your adult figure to any space on the space-time grid. Let's move there to the space-time grid. Okay, here we are. This is our 3x3 space-time grid for 2 players. So I can place my adult figure, my time traveler, to any space on the space-time grid. Space means before any card, okay? As long as it's not occupied by the child figure, your younger version, so I cannot come here, because I will create a paradox, meeting my younger self, and it will create a paradox, okay, really thematic. Or another player's adult figure. So 2 time travelers cannot meet. That would also create a paradox. So let's say there is already a time traveler on this event, okay, or here, let's put it closer. This location, this spot, is linked with this card, okay, just the card that is above you. So by moving, I can either move my adult figure again. I cannot go here because I would meet another time traveler and I would create a paradox. I cannot move here because I would meet my younger self and create a paradox. But all the other spaces, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 are, sorry, yeah, I can even go here where there is another player's younger adult figure, doesn't matter, that's valid also. I would be able to go, and that's fine, okay? So this is the movement one. Or instead of moving, when I move my adult time traveler and it's outside at the beginning of the game, I bring him wherever I want, okay? And then if he was already there from another round, I pick him up and I get him to move to another space based on the restrictions I just mentioned, okay? That's legit. Instead of moving your time traveler, your adult miniature, you can optimize to use your child figure to another space on the same age. The restrictions that apply here are the following. We are now at the moment round 1, which is age 1, so I can move him from here to here or to here, okay? So but the younger version of myself cannot move into the future, even if I didn't have my adult self, okay? So the adult can go anywhere with the exceptions or restrictions I mentioned. Sorry, the adult. The younger version is restricted to the timeline. At the moment round 1, age 1, so only here, okay? So he can move in a more restricted way, which makes sense according to the known rules of time traveling. We've seen how movement works, the move icon, okay? Now let's see the cause and event card on the space grid, or else, more simplistically put, play a card, an event card on the grid, okay? This icon, it has the thunder and a blue arrow pointing down, okay? It means to play. So let's move on the space grid again. And let's assume I have already, either I was here already or I just moved here, and I'm interested in playing a card specifically here because I want to create a pattern, purple, I don't know, blue, purple, okay? No, I have it that. Purple, yellow, purple, okay? So the play in event card means that from your hand, you pick up a card, and this time you only care about the color, the type, okay? The color. You play it here, not paying any cost, so you don't pay time to do that, you just play it because you have it in your possession. And when you do that, you activate, you play it for the color, for fixing either for now or for future turns the colors for chains, make more sense later, but also equally importantly you play it for the text. So it gives you access to a powerful event benefit that you take it and you play it like that. So I play the card, I perform the text, and theoretically I'm in a better position towards making a pattern for my validation later on. You can play an event card from your hand face up in the space or in the space-time grid where your adult figure it is. So keep in mind you cannot do that here, so you need to use it in the location where your adult figure is. So I cannot play the card on the location of my younger self. This is another icon. And keep in mind that if that card already covers 1 or more resources, you take the resources that were on top of it, you activate the text as I mentioned on the event and gain any benefits it provides, or you can still ignore it if it doesn't work for you. That's also legit. Keep in mind that if an event card text instructs you to place an event card on the space-time grid, the text is not activated, but you still gain the resources on top of covered event cards. And note that if you swap an event card on the space-time grid due to abilities with another, the resources remain in the space where they were, thus on the new card. So that's the second basic action. Now let's move to see the validate a chain and how it works. Now this is the validate a chain, which has a link or a chain icon plus a blue arrow pointing downwards, okay? And there is a very nice icon reference, very easy to remember them at the back of the rulebook, and you don't even need to refer to it moving forward very soon. Now, validate a chain card, which is a basic action. If the shape and color pattern of one of your chain cards in your hand is created by your actions or by others, but mainly from what you have done, okay, this pattern is created on the space-time grid, you can perform this action now, even if you didn't make it. Maybe you start your turn and you already found it like that, okay, that's still fine. You don't have to be the one that caused it, but most of the times you need to work for it, okay, especially for level 2 and level 3, but for level 1 also. What you need to do there is you need to validate the chain card. So let's move to the space-time grid again. So one of my chain cards I have in my hand, hidden from the other players, is this one, which shows purple, blue and purple. This is a level 1 card, okay? So I have this pattern already created, or someone else did for me and I was lucky, most probably I did. Purple, blue, purple, okay? So now I'm in a position to validate. What I do is keep in mind that the chain patterns can only be created in the correct orientation. That means, okay, now it will be the same, but let me show you another level card, level 1 card to make it easy. So if it was this a pattern, you cannot make it upside down or flipped or whatever. It needs to be exactly in the correct orientation, only upwards as shown on the card. And also you always refer to the space grid by this orientation. So this is H1, H2 and H3 facing on the same direction. Now once you have created the correct orientation as shown on the card, unless an event card text states otherwise, you are able to validate the chain card. Then you reveal it. You say, okay, here I can now use my validate icon to validate the card. Here is a pattern. You show it that you managed to sort out the events in the correct order, okay? You reveal it to other players and you need to pay time tokens shown on the chain card. In this case 2. That means I need to have in my possession 2 time tokens, pay them in order to proceed with the validation. If I don't have time tokens, and it can happen frequently if you don't plan well, I'm not allowed to proceed and validate. It's a missed opportunity for me, so I need to think carefully about that. Keep in mind that after validating the chain card, you place it face down next to your mine board, close by, because you have secured that you're going to pick up the number of points, 5, 7 or 13 based on level 1, 2 or 3, so gathering more points for the endgame scoring, okay, so you keep it nearby. And the next thing that you do is you need to pick up a new card from the offer. Remember, we had a grid here with face down chain cards with fragment tokens on top of them. So we choose one of the ones there. You can opt to get, you know, in this case I can decide to take a level 2, a level 3 or a level 1. Okay, but it could be during the course of the game. You have access to specific levels based on what other players have already taken out, or yourself also. So you select one card, you take it and you place it next to your mine board into your hand. Okay, so let's say I want another level 1, so I take the fragment, I'm going to place it on my mine board. I take the card hidden from the other players, so this is what I'm trying to do next. Keep it with my other chain cards, okay, if I have any. And then what I do is I pick up the fragment. I don't fill in with a new card because how many cards are left triggers the end of the round. Okay, more on that later. But keep in mind generally that once picking new cards, level 3 are more difficult to complete, as you have seen, than level 2, than level 1. No, we don't have any level 1, so if anyone comes to pick up a new card, they need to take at least level 2, for example, in this case, which is a good example. So I add my chain card to the rest of the cards in my hand, and then remember I picked up a fragment that was on top. I decide where I'm going to place it. Could be in progressing even more, one of those, or gain access, starting building up the fragment meter, recovered fragments it is in other cards, okay, for my access to additional icons and on prosperity points down the road. So this is how it works, okay. It would be a good tactic generally to be better to choose lower level chain cards if you want to move faster, because they can give you easier points, but they give you less amount of points. Or you can opt, when you are more powerful, to get level 2 and level 3 because they will reward you with more point tokens. But also keep in mind that they require more, let's see, level 2, more time tokens, and let's see, level 3 to fulfill them, 5 for level 3. Okay, so you need to plan also ahead in regards to the time tokens in your possession. Right, that being said, time tokens and adrenaline pills go into your supply, while fragment tokens must be recovered immediately. Note that if you swap a chain card from the space-time grid with another one with your hand on the chains deck, the resources always remain on whichever chain card they were placed on the space grid. And these are all the let's say the basic actions. Now, once you have played cards, let's move back on the perception here, let's focus here. You can have prosperity points gained when you validate you gain the prosperity cards, you have the chain patterns, and you have the time tokens to pay for the validate chain card. This is how it goes. Okay, the recovered fragment goes in one of the slots. This is a free action, you decide from bottom to top which fragment I place. You select the minefield of your mind board and place the fragment token in the lowest empty space. Keep in mind that placing a fragment token can activate an extra action on your mind board and improve one of your abilities in your mission to find the cure for pandemic, in this case, in the Pandemia dystopia. You don't need to study an event on that minefield to place a fragment, so even if it goes like that, you know that you want to start building up. Here you can even place a fragment on an empty slot. Okay. And last but not least, if a used adrenaline pill occupies a space where you want to place the fragment token, you may immediately discard that and use the adrenaline pill, they used adrenaline pill, and place a fragment. So if you have already boosted with an adrenaline pill, because you'll see in the course of the game you will be able to also place adrenaline pills, so you boost more. So if later I would put another fragment token here, I would simply discard the adrenaline pill and put in its place the fragment. Another free action, this was a recover a fragment token, it's a free action as I said. Another free action is to use an adrenaline pill at any time on your turn, but not during any other action. You may select any minefield on your board and place an adrenaline pill in the lowest empty space. You may place as many adrenaline pills as you want from the supply. You can even 1, 2, 3, 4, to reach higher levels. And this will be returned from your mine board to the general supply. You will lose them at the end of your turn. And there is an icon here to remind you. Okay? So this boosts you temporarily only. Also you lose points, because at the end of the game they grant you victory points, one for one. Keep in mind that you can also gain benefits that you can use, but each adrenaline pill, since it grants you one prosperity point, you need to make sure once you spend it, you're going to make good use out of it and gain enough victory points, because otherwise it's an opportunity was lost. So use them, I would say, carefully. What do I mean? Okay, so in this example, let's say I wanted to also play an assist action, which I haven't explained how it works, but if I didn't have a fragment, but I could spend one, let's say, one adrenaline pill temporarily for this round from my reserve, and in the perception phase I would have access to move, to play an event card, to validate, to play another event card, and to the assist, even though I didn't have fragments. So temporarily gaining access to higher slots and more auxiliary supportive actions. Okay, this is really useful. Right, now another free action, it is a void token. Keep in mind that when we start the game, and I forgot to mention it, we gain one void token. We start the game with one void token besides the 7 time tokens and the adrenaline pills in our reserve. We also have one void token. So using a void token is a free action. At any time during your turn, you may place a void token from your supply on any event card on the space-time grid to change its color temporarily to match your pattern of your chain card, and thus create more easy possibility to validate. So let's move to the space grid again. Remember, I wanted to make this up to make this chain card. So purple, blue, and purple. I had purple, but let's say I didn't have blue here. Okay, I could use a void token, and I can do that as much as possible, so I can use more than one void tokens to change temporarily the color to any color I want. So I make this blue only for me and only for my round. Okay, so this will be now purple, blue instead of green, purple. So I still would be able to validate the chain and get the card and the points and the fragment like I did before. So this is very powerful because void tokens can do a lot of help in terms of making the patterns, especially with high level cards, when you really want to make more and more cards to specific colors or types. But they only do that temporarily and only for your round. But this is done for making patterns. For example, you cannot use a void token to change a technology event card blue to a society event card purple in order to take advantage of an event card text that says gain 1 adrenaline pill for each top society event card in the same age with this event card. Okay, so you only do it for patterns. And again, as I mentioned, you can play as many void tokens as you want and have in your possession. There is no limitation here. You don't need to just play one. You can play 2 or 3 or whatever. Okay, but it's more difficult to have 3 in your possession, but it could be that you play more than one. Now it's a good opportunity to explain also a secondary action which is called assist. It shows our younger self with a blue arrow pointing down. You see, it's different from the normal play card with your time traveler, your adult event. So this is here. This is called assist. So you can play event card from your hand face up in the space on the in any space in a space on the space-time grid where your child figure is. The card covers the one that was already there, and you take any resources that were on top of it. You can activate the text on the event card and gain any benefits, but it's not mandatory like before. Alternatively, you may pass the perception phase altogether. Okay, so I don't do any of this. So I don't move, I don't play a card, I don't validate, I don't take any additional actions. Okay, I pass everything to gain 1 void token. This is how the main way of gaining extra void tokens is. You pass all the perception phase to gain 1 void token. They're that powerful. But let me go back one step and show you how the assist is done. Okay, so I can move, I can assist, then I can play a card with my adult, then I can validate, you know, again, any order. But this icon means that, like with my adult self, but this time only with my young one, the assist is only for your young self. Means that you can play a card in front of your young self, of course, trying to become better in terms of being more prepared for fulfilling patterns, etc. And you also gain the effect of the card. It's just that you only do it, the assist means you only play it in front of your younger self. You cannot play it in front of your adult self. Moving to the third phase during my player turn is the intelligence phase. Okay, so done study phase, done perception, now move to the intelligence phase. In the intelligence phase, this is linked with the Pandemia dystopia specifically. You may perform actions to find a cure for a pandemic virus. There are 2 basic intelligence actions you can do, either this or that. That's why you have a slash. Either you do the plan A, you roll research dice to research for the virus, or you do the plan B, you roll the same research dice but to research and find the cure. There are 6 research dice in total, okay, and they have 3 virus sides, so 3 yellows, virus, virus, virus. They have 2 cure sides, cure, cure, and they have a single side which is has this icon, which is let's say gray or light blue, which shows both. Okay. This one you don't have access to unless you have done research to have ability to use them. Okay, so what does this mean? I'm going to explain how you do the research roll, but let's say I want to get virus results, okay, and in one of my dices or more than one I have this result. I would be able to benefit, and for me this will translate to 2 yellow virus. You see, it's explained here. This icon for me would be the 2 desired yellow ones plus any other yellows I have collected, let's say whatever. I will explain again how this is done. Or for each fragment I have here, so let's say I have rolled this and that, and this. And I wanted to get viruses, so I wanted to get as many viruses to progress on the virus. So 1, 2, 3. One of the these dice, I can make it for 2. I convert it to 2 viruses, so it's 1, 2, 3, and this one is another 2, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because I have one fragment enabling this dice to be used for what I want. I don't have additional fragments, so I cannot use this to get extra yellow virus results. So my total result will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, which still is good, but the more fragments you have here and or adrenaline, the more icons like this you can enable to give you 2 of the one you're looking for, simplistically put. But before going into details, I want to go back into how the plan A or plan B works. Remember, when you go to the intelligence phase, you either do plan A or plan B. Let's move to our laboratory board. You see we have the plan A, which is the triangle, and it's linked with the virus track, so you progress on the outer part, which is the virus. Or you have the plan B, which is a circle, which is linked with the cure site, the green vaccine, and you progress on the inner track, and it's linked with the cure. Okay, you don't progress the dice, I just wanted to show you the icon which relates to triangle, yellow virus, circle, green vaccine. Okay, so these 2 tracks will give you a lot of victory points at the end of the game, and how quickly or how easily you move them depends on a number of factors. Okay, but when you go to the third phase of your turn, the intelligence phase, you say, do I do plan A or plan B? Will I roll for viruses yellow or for cure green? Okay, let's say I want to roll for viruses yellow, so I want to roll results. So I roll all 6 of my dice. Okay, wow, that's a fantastic roll. So in this case, I would progress 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say I had 6. I would take my my marker and I will progress 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this track. Okay, but let's reverse. If my final result is like, and I will say what I mean final result is like that, each opposite icon, I didn't go, I went for viruses, so I wanted yellow results, virus results. Each opposite result, in this case green, cancels out one of my desired results. So this cancel out, so I would progress 1, 2, 3, 4 instead. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if I was like that, also this would cancel out, so I would progress only 2, and so on. Okay. Now, if I had this icon, as I mentioned, and if I had one fragment at least to enable it, I will count it for 2. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -1, 5. Okay? This is how it works. But if I rolled poorly, and I don't have any abilities to mitigate it, you'll see what it means, then I don't move at all on this track. Okay? Even if it's a good roll, it would have been a good roll if I played for the green track, the cure. That being said, let's say I have a very good result, let's say I have all this, and for whatever reason I have 2, which would mean 2 would cancel 2, so I would only progress 2. So I was here and I would only move 1, 2. Okay, you can decide to cancel all the negative results that you don't want to by moving 1 down here, so I'm going to take -1 point. If I do it also in the future, -3. If I do it also in the future, -4. Okay, this is how this works. In order to remove all of the negative results for my plan, and then I would move 4 normally. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is how it goes. Essentially, exactly the same idea works if I go for plan B. I want to roll the green ones, and it works the other way around. Okay, so I don't have to explain it again. Now, something important also is, and I'm going to move now back at the bottom, or I should better take this here. You've seen that I use these icons if I have enough fragments to gain the 2 desired results. The other thing here is that for each fragment I have on the first slot below my my perception, you know, below my perception slot, I can fix a specific number of results based on the fragments. So if I have 0 fragments, I don't fix any results before I roll. If I have 1 or 2 fragments, 1 or 2 fragments means here I have 2 fragments. Okay, if I have 2 fragments, I can fix already one result. That means before I roll, I want to go for viruses, so I already take one die, set it aside, as if I already rolled the desired result. If I had 3 or 4 fragments, I fix 2 results already in my desired result. And if I have 5, 3, and I can fix all the way up to 4 results if I have all 6 fragments covered. Okay, but let's say I have 3 fragments for the sake of example, so I can fix 2. That means before I roll and do anything else, I fix 2 and then I roll. Okay, so that's you have already a good benefit. And then let's move to the last portion, which is here, which is the rerolls. If I have, this is also again linked with the third slot, the memory slot, with the fragments. If I have 0 fragments, I don't do any reroll. If I have 1 or 2 fragments, I have 1 reroll. If I have 3 or 4 fragments, 2 reroll. And if I have 5 or 6 fragments, 5 fragments, 3 rerolls, and 6 fragments, 4 reroll. That means, let's say theoretically put, if I have everything, which is difficult, but let's say I have all my fragments filled in, which is an imaginary scenario, okay? 6, 6, 6 fragments. That means that I could fix already before I do anything. I decide, again, I declare I go for plan A or plan B. Let's say I go for plan A yellow. I fix already the maximum amount because I have 6 fragments, which is 4. So before I roll anything, I say I want 4 fixes, 4 results to my desired result. For me, any icon like that counts for 2, okay? And let's say I have also 3 fragments here. I have 2 rerolls. Even if I have more, it doesn't matter because I roll them all together. So that means I would only roll 2. In this case, fantastic, I have 6 results. But let's say I ended up with this one. By having fragments here, it gives me reroll. So if I have 3 fragments on the memory slot, I get to reroll 2. So you see, it's even better. So I don't cancel 2, I cancel only 1. And still, I have a good result. So anyway, this is how the plan A and plan B works in the intelligence, depending again if you want to go for this track or that track. Okay, it's really similar, it just moves you on another track. But let's focus, why do you want to move on this track? Because at the end of the game, you see, you will be progressing, both yourself and your opponent, on these tracks. Okay, so you will be progressing here and your opponent is going to be you're both going to be progressing on both theoretically both tracks. If the game ends, if you have reached a milestone on a track, let me show you here. For each track is scored separately. Let's go on the other track, the virus, the triangle. Let's say I have reached here or past here. I have secured 4 victory points. And if I'm the first one ahead from the rest and ties are friendly, I also gain the bonuses. So the yellow would gain from the left track 4 points because they have reached already 4 points, or 10, let's say if they reached all the way up here, okay, 10 points, plus the leader's bonus, which is 9, so 10 plus 9, 19, and the green player will only gain 4, you see, and then we're going to score the other track. The green player is going to gain 0 points because they haven't reached anything. They need to reach at least here to get 7. But let's say they were here, they end up here. They're going to gain 7 points for the left track, plus 8, 12, 7 plus 8, sorry, 15, 7 plus 8, 15, because he gets the bonus. No, sorry, he gets this bonus. So 9 plus 7, 16, because he's already in the next portion. So the bonus is linked with portions of the track, which is common. But the points is linked independently on the where you are at the specific side track. So you see there's a lot of push and pull, and this is one of the great games of things of the game that I really loved, is that there is a lot of push when your opponents go, because you see you think even here you still get 16 and your opponent gets 7, but with just a couple of movements you just get 7 and your opponent gets 16, and this power change is in dynamic. Really, it has a lot of interest and indirect interaction between the players, and I really loved it for both tracks, and also they give you a good opportunity for a big chunk of points. Last icon I want to explain is the bury an event card, which is this icon. For you to have access, either you need fragments or you need to have fragments and adrenaline pills, but let's say I had access to this. So in this case, when I go and move into my second phase, which is the intelligence phase, I would do plan A or plan B, and I would be able to use the icons. So the berry icon, we can also have berry icons here or here. I'm just explaining in this example. So the berry icon gives you the opportunity to place an event card from your hand under its matching minefield on your mine board face down. Buried event cards may give you extra prosperity points at the end of the game based on your recovered fragment tokens. Alternatively, you may pass all intelligence phase, so you don't do anything, you don't play plan A or plan B or extra actions, to gain twice the resources in the next phase. And sometimes you do that because it's important. But how do you bury? When you bury, you pick up a card from your hand, whichever card you want, and you place it in the matching slot, so memory, perception, or intelligence. So let's say I gained a bury event and I want to bury something here because I have a lot of fragments. So I'm going to pick up a perception card, which let's say it's this one from my hand. Okay, perception. So I bury it face down. There is a slot under these cards, a separate slot that it's the card, and there is a slot. I don't know if you can see it here, and you can have a different number of event cards buried, but at the end of the game both the cards you have studied or overlapped, and the buried ones, you flip them face up and you gain the points if you have reached them with the fragment. So that's a good way to that's a good reason to continue, let's say, burying cards. But if I buried, let's say, a memory card, I need to bury it here. If I buried an intelligence card, I need to bury it in the respective slot. Okay, and you can get a lot of victory points also at the end from buried cards. These are different from the studied cards because you don't place them face up, you place them on the separate slot that is beneath, specifically for buried cards. Again, if I skip all of my intelligence phase, don't do anything, I take twice the resources here. Okay, whatever I'm going to take, I get it, get the intelligence phase, gain the resources in my memory phase twice in this turn. Last phase is the memory phase here, so you gain 1 time token from this icon. Okay, you gain any additional resources. In this case, I have played the boost pill. That means I would get to pick up another card. Okay, but forget about it for the moment. This is just extra like before. The main second action you gain is take an event card. So this means take a time token. This means go to the offer with the 3 cards. You know, we have a deck and three cards next to each other, and you either pick up one from the deck face down or one from the 3 in the offer, and you take it up into your hand for your plans. Okay, this is a draw event card. The gain time action is very simple. You just pick up the time token, and this one you just pick up a card. Okay, you draw an event card from the upcoming events. If you take the upcoming event card, you don't open a new event card from the event cards in its place until you end your turn. Okay. There is also the last thing, which is the heal, a secondary action, which has let me find the card to show you. It's this one. So if you get access to this one from secondary actions, okay, or free actions, you gain 1 adrenaline pill from the supply to your personal reserve. This is called heal. Keep in mind that once you finish if you have already passed before, you're going to take twice everything in the resources in your last phase, which is the memory phase. And this is also something important because you can gain a lot of resources back then. Okay. Again, once you've done, you move to the cleanup phase here, or end of turn, I should say, not cleanup phase. So you discard any event cards from your hand until you have 5. You have a limit. So if you have more than 5 cards into your hand, you need to discard down to 5. Then any boost adrenaline pills, I say it boost, but it's called adrenaline pills, that I have used for my benefits during my turn, they are returned to the reserve. And any void tokens I have placed on the grid, like I showed you before, I pick them up from the grid and put them out in the supply. I lose them. Then I draw event cards from the events deck to replenish the upcoming event cards until there are again 3 upcoming event cards. And last but not least, I check the number of chain cards remaining in the space-time on the left of the space-time grid. If they are equal or less than the number of players, then we proceed with the end of round. Otherwise, we continue with another turn. So in this case, for example, it's a 4-player game. That means if at some point I had only 2 or 1 or none chain cards left, that means that we proceed with the end of the round. Okay, because it's equal to or less than the number of players. If it was a 3-player game, the number would be 3 remaining or less, and if it's a 4-player game, the number remaining would be 4. Okay, so this is how the end of turn works. End of round. If this is a third round, you ignore the next steps, you continue taking turns until all players have played the same number of turns and proceed with the final scoring. For example, in a 3-player game, if the round ended in the third player's turn, no more turns will be played. But if the game ended in the first player's turn, then both the second and third player will play an extra turn before the game ends. This is because time has the same consistency for everyone. Now, moving forward, we return all the adult figures back to their respective player's reserve next to their mind board. All players immediately recover 1 fragment. That means you gain 1 fragment and you place it in one of the slots. That's for free. You move all the child figures to the next age in the same zone of the space grid. That means in the same zone we move from round 1 to round 2, so they move to the next age. Okay, now they would be able to move only in those spots because we have progressed. We place a number of adrenaline pills equal to the level of the card that were left and not selected after the round has ended. So in this case the round ended because we reached 2 or less for a 2-player game. These chain cards were not selected, they were left at the end of the round. That means that this is a level 3, so it's going to be boosted with 3 adrenaline pills, and this one is going to be boosted with 2 because it's level 2. That makes them even more desirable to be picked up, because they will not only will get next time the fragment, you're also going to get the adrenaline pills. Following that, you draw a number of chain cards from the chain deck and place them face down on the space grid until there are 3 per player. Okay, in this case we need 6, so we had 2. We just take the next 4, so that it's 2 times 3, 6 for a 2-player game. Okay, so this is the replenishment of the chain card, but make sure to add fragment tokens on each of the new cards you drew and placed face down, like we did at the start setup of the game. Once you've done that, you proceed to the next round, and if now it's the next player's turn. In the rare case that the last event card is drawn from the events deck, the game ends and the end of the current turn. No more turns are played. That's because while time is infinite, time travel is not. At the end of the game, players may study the remaining event cards in their hand before processing to the final scoring, paying their study cost as normal. Final scoring. Final scoring is just a much cooler way of saying we made it back alive. Since you managed to survive the 3 rounds of your time travel, it's time for the final countdown. Players gain prosperity points for their achievements. First of all, we start with validated chain cards that grant prosperity points according to their level. Any level 1 prosperity card you have already validated and have face down next to your mind board gives you 5 victory points or prosperity points. Every validated card that you have of level 2 gives you 7 victory points. And last but not least, any validated card that you have of level 3 gives you 13 victory points. You tally the validated total of your chain cards and you get a total number of prosperity points from validated chain cards. Then for Pandemia Dystopia only, you have the plan A, the various research. So you focus on the track on the outer track. that grants prosperity points shown on the furthest milestone on the various track that each player's progress marker has reached or passed, plus bonus points to the first player or tied players, so it's friendly, according to the table that the progress marker reached. However, you subtract the corresponding prosperity points if any research marker is on the Plan A protection track. That means, for example, as I said here, the yellow gets 10 plus 9, 19, minus 1 because they used one protection, 18 victory points, prosperity points. For likewise for Plan B, the Q research, the inner track, the circle, the green vaccine, grants the prosperity points shown on the furthest milestone on the cure track that each player progress marker has reached or passed, plus bonus points for the first player or tied players according to the table that they progressed, minus or subtracting the corresponding prosperity tokens, prosperity points if they had used protection. Okay, so two different scores for each track with the same similar philosophy. Then we go into studied and buried event cards. On player's mind board, these cards that are either studied, meaning face up on the slots, on top of each other for each of the 3 slots, or buried beneath, face down. They grant prosperity points if and only if a recovered fragment token is placed on the nearby space on the mind board. That means, for example, in this case, this card will not give me 1 victory point because I haven't reached this third spot with fragment. Okay, so it's an opportunity lost for me. And the buried one below, it would only give me 1 victory point, again missing the 2. So you do that for every studied or buried card according to how far up you have progressed with your fragments, and you make a total sum for your studied and buried event cards, and then you proceed to finally getting 1 prosperity point for each adrenaline pill that you didn't use at the end of the game. The player with the most prosperity points is declared the protagonist, the one who managed to tame time travel and be the best at it. If there is a tie, the player with the most validated chain cards wins, and if there's still a tie, the player with the most validated higher level chain cards wins. If there's still a tie, well, space-time is probably telling you to buckle up and restart. You can play a rematch to see who will be the ultimate protagonist. If you decide to do so, be sure to read the instructions about how you progress, so how you evaluate. And then I need to focus on the core destiny because it's a nice feature of the game here, which is linked with evaluate. Once you finish, do not clear the space-time grid. Okay, there's still one more thing you should do. Evaluate the success of your mission before you start celebrating your victory. Yes, you change the future, but what does change really means, if you are not afraid to go deeper into the space-time confusion, there is much more you can do. You count the total study cost of the top event cards of the space-time grid according to the type. This should be numbers. For example, for the yellow card, it's 1 cost plus 1, 2 plus 3, 5. Okay, you do that for each of the cards, the food, the energy, the technology, and the society. The type with the most determines the dystopia on your next game. So if you had, let's say, 5 was the maximum, your yellow card had the maximum number of time, that means that the next game you should play is Anomie. If it's with purple cards, it should be Oceanrealm. If it's with green cards, it should be Extinction. And if it's with blue cards, it should be Pandemia. However, if you prefer, you can always skip this continuity and choose a dystopia that best suits your playing style. But this is a nice system also to get to show you how to decide on your next game which module to use and continue going deeper into time traveling. So there you have it. This is everything you need to know on how to play the game with the pandemic dystopia. Okay, these are the general rules. These are also the special rules that apply only for the Pandemia dystopia. Now I'm going to mention briefly some things about the rest of the modules, but what I want to show you before I do so is, first of all, the rulebook has a fantastic, as you can see, iconography, but what's most important is the season mode that you can play. I'm not going to go deeper in that, but you can play the game like a sort of campaign with these campaign cards that they are provided, and then you can have like a season mode, and this is explained in the rulebook. Okay, you can have the side effects or the verge, which are also additional modules, but that's what I want to show you, is that the different modules, the different dystopias have different categorization. So Pandemia is, as I said, a bit of lucky, has less strategy, it's not too complex, and it doesn't last that long. On the other hand, there is zero luck in Anomie, full strategy, quite a lot of complexity, and quite a lot of substantial more duration. And Extinction is like that, and Oceanrealm is like that. But this is a nice guide to show you what to do or to expect in each of the pandemias, the dystopias, before you go into them in detail. Now, even up to this point, you know everything you need to know about the game, and it's a good portion of the rules explanation so that you can decide if this is for you. What I want to mention now moving forward is that each of the different dystopias, different modules, Pandemia, Anomie, Extinction, and Oceanrealm, they all have separate solo modes. That's correct, as you heard it. That's fantastic, because not only you have the different modules that you can play the game, the different dystopias, which gives a substantial different direction into the gameplay. A portion is similar, like the car play and the engine building, but the rest changes. But in addition to that, they have separate solo modes, and they're all explained into the rules, so this gives a lot of value. It's like having almost 4 games in one, in my opinion, if you ask me, with separate solos for each. Now, that being said, let me briefly touch a couple of points for each of the other dystopias. I'm not going to go into detail, but just to give you some more insight. Anomie. You decisively announce that this is a dystopia that the most strategic players may prefer. In step 4 of the setup, you place a Congress board near the space-time grid, and in step 6 you give each player 2 senator tokens that you see in front of you, the wooden tokens, 5 progress markers in their color of choice, and an Anomie future board. So this is the Pandemia board, if you remember, okay, that we used below our mine board. On the flip side, you have the Anomie board, which has different sections linked with this dystopia. Keep in mind that each player places 1 senator token in the center starting space of the Congress board, and the other one on the space to the right of the first. You place 4 veto tokens in the corresponding space of the Congress board. You keep all the progress markers somewhere near the Congress board, and finally in step 8 you deal Anomie gadget cards instead of the Pandemia that we dealt before, and we follow the same rules. Again, the gadget cards, remember, they are per dystopia, so you use the Anomie ones and you follow the same process to use gadgets respectively. Now, the intelligence phase for Anomie dystopia only. In the intelligence phase of the Anomie dystopia, you perform actions to influence senators to vote for strong and just laws so that people will continue to follow them in the future. There are 2 basic intelligence actions that you can choose to. You can do only one of them or skip both. Plan A, move 1 of your senator tokens to the on the Congress board to vote for laws, or plan B, move 1 of your senator tokens on the Congress board to propose bills. On the Congress board there is 1 law space and 4 individual bill spaces representing health, culture, education and economy. Senator tokens may move once to any orthogonally adjacent empty space, and their goal is to reach the law of the bill spaces. An empty space is any space that is not occupied by another senator or a veto token. Recovering fragment tokens and using adrenaline pills will grant your senator tokens extra abilities or help you gain more prosperity points. And just briefly to mention how these work, again they are captured as a reminder below your on your future board. So for the perception, according to the total number of recovered fragment tokens and used adrenaline pills on your perception minefield, you move your progress markers on the law and bill tracks when you propose a bill or vote a law, thus gaining more prosperity points at the end of the game. For the intelligence, here, according to the total number of recovered fragment tokens and used adrenaline pills on your intelligence, a minefield, your senator figure, may move through a number of senator figures or veto tokens, maneuver, and this will give benefit. And for the memory, according to the total number of recovered fragment tokens and used adrenaline pills on your memory minefield, your senator figure may move under 1 or 2 adjacent figures on a law or a bill space to ask for support, and this will also give respective benefit. So that being said, to vote a law, perform the plan A action, while to propose a bill you choose to perform the plan B action. And again, this is captured on your mine board. Plan A, the basic action, one of your senator figures may perform the maneuver action if able and then may move to any orthogonally adjacent empty space or to the low space under an opponent's senator figure, if you can ask for support, that is only, and on the Congress board. At the end of your maneuver and move action, if your senator figure stops on the low space in the center of the Congress board, move all your progress markers on the low track according to the total number of recovered fragments and use adrenaline pills on the perception minefield. If you have asked for support, this benefit is doubled or even tripled, and this will give a lot of benefit. Otherwise, you have Plan B, the basic action. Again, Plan B, it would be, I remind you, the other option, and in this case one of your senator figures may perform the maneuver action, and if able to do so, they may move to any orthogonally adjacent empty space or to a build space under an opponent's senator figure. If you have, you can ask for support, that is again, on the Congress board. And at the end of your maneuver and move action, if your senator figure stops on an empty build space on the Congress board, you move your progress marker one space on the corresponding build track. If you have enough fragment tokens and use adrenaline pills on your perception minefield, you may also opt to progress the marker on one of the other build tracks. This is basically the basic idea. So it's all about the Anomie board, passing builds, moving your senator tokens when you do Plan A or Plan B, passing builds or lows, and trying to get up on the respective tracks as much as possible for scoring, as you'll see, more victory points depending on how well you perform. So for scoring, for the Anomia dystopia, for Plan A, vote lows grants the number of prosperity points shown on the space on the low track of each player's progress marker that it is in, and for Plan B, proposed builds grants a number of prosperity points shown below the space of the build track where each player's progress marker is. Again, for this interesting with no luck dystopia / module, there is a separate solo mode which is explained in the rulebook, and you can play it also as a solo. Extinction. Extinction is closer than we think. With these dark words, basically you welcome everyone to a place where luck and odds will challenge even the most experienced card player. In step 4 of the setup, you shuffle the X black and the Y red chromosome cards separately to create the X and Y chromosome decks. You deal each player 2 chromosome cards from each deck face up, and you draw the top 3 chromosome cards from each deck and shuffle them together. Randomly place them face up in to form a row of to face up in a row of 6, with the leftmost card considered first in line, and this is called the display. Finally, you place the X and Y chromosome decks near the space-time grid, and in step 6 of the setup, you give each player a chromosome scorecard and an extinction future board. Just to show you again, this is the extinction here. It's this one, sorry. Yeah, so this is the extinction. And again, it clicks below your mind board. It has different advantages based on how much you have progressed and how well you're doing. So keep in mind that the intelligence phase changes for Extinction dystopia only. In the intelligence phase of the Extinction dystopia, you perform actions to collect specific sequences of chromosome genes and experiment to find out why humans will not be able to bear children in the near future. Sounds familiar from a movie. There are 2 basic intelligent actions, and you can choose to do only one of them or skip both. You have Plan A, experiment with chromosome X, okay, or Plan B, experiment with chromosome Y. Each chromosome card in front of you is placed in a column called a tube column. Each tube column can hold from 0 to 6 chromosome cards, and during the game you draw new chromosome cards from the chromosome decks and place them in your tube columns, trying to make sets of chromosome cards of the same color and number and sets of chromosome cards of the same color in sequential descending order. This is a part of the Plan A or Plan B approach, okay? Recovering fragment tokens and using adrenaline pills on each mind board of your mind board helps you make chromosome card sets more easily, okay? And for perception, for each recovered fragment token, so let's focus on perception, okay, here. For each recovered fragment token and use the adrenaline pill on your perception minefield, instead of placing a chromosome card in your tube columns, you may place it face down in a fifth column next to your tube columns. This is your freezer column, and you may store chromosome cards there to place them in your tube columns during your next turns. So this is very, very useful for flexibility. For intelligence, for each recovered fragment token and use the adrenaline pill on your intelligent minefield, you may take the top chromosome card from one of the tube columns and place it in another one of your tube columns with 5 or fewer chromosome cards there. And last, for the memory, instead of taking a chromosome card from the deck, you may take one from the display. The more recovered fragment tokens and used adrenaline pills you have on your memory minefield, the more far rightmost you can progress on the line of the offer of the chromosome cards, and you can choose from the display. And this gives you a really better opportunity for getting the cards you really need. When performing the Plan A action, you must use chromosome X black cards, and when performing the Plan B action, you must use chromosome Y red cards. So just briefly to mention how each of those works in practice, we can say that for Plan A, the basic action, you draw one chromosome X card from the chromosome X deck or take one from the display if you have enough recovered fragment tokens, and use the adrenaline pills in your memory minefield and place it in one of your tube columns following the standard rules. Instead, you can place a chromosome X card on your freezer column if you have enough recovered fragment tokens, or use the adrenaline pills, of course, in your perception minefield. Before and after placing this chromosome X card, if you have enough recovered fragment tokens and use adrenaline pills in your intelligence minefield, you may move any top chromosome X card from any of your tube columns to another tube column following the standard rules. For Plan B, same as Plan A action, but using chromosome Y cards. So how scoring works with Extinction dystopia. So for Plan A, chromosome X grants you prosperity points for each set containing only chromosome X black cards according to the table included with the player aid. Let me show you how this looks. This is this card here, which gives you the opportunity for scoring. Okay. However, X black cards in sets that also contain chromosome Y red cards grant only one prosperity point each. So for Plan B, grants for the chromosome Y, it grants you prosperity points for each set containing only chromosome Y red cards according to the table again. However, chromosome Y red cards in sets that also contain chromosome X black cards grants only one prosperity point. If you mix them, you get less points, that is. So other than that, the rest of the scoring continues and applies. Okay, so it's similar like with the rest, and that's a way to gain the scoring for the Extinction dystopia. Again, quickly to remind you that this dystopia, this module, also has a separate solo mode for playing with Extinction. The last dystopia, briefly, it's the Oceanrealm. Oceanrealm, you confidently claim. This is a dystopia where each player can test their strategic design skills, but also can lend a hand to other players in need. You skip step 4 in the setup, and in step 6 you give each player an Oceanrealm future board, one of these. Okay, this is paper, as I said. In the intelligence phase for Oceanrealm dystopia only, in the intelligence phase of the Oceanrealm dystopia, you perform actions to protect the land's wildlife, lakes, forests and mountains to maintain the balance of the future of the nature and prevent the ice from melting, of course. There are two basic intelligent actions you can perform. You can do one of them or skip both. For Plan A, you protect wildlife, lakes and forests on the land map region where your adult figure is. For Plan B, you protect wildfire, lakes and forests on the land map region where your another player's adult or child figure is. The land map is divided into 12 regions, as you can see, and each region has 9 sectors, 8 of which are blank sectors and one of which is, has an industrial zone in it. To claim sectors as protected land, you need to draw wildlife, lake and forest symbols in them. And keep in mind that for 2 players and the 3 regions in the rightmost column are not included, okay, for balancing purposes, and each region represents a space on the space grid that we have, the space-time grid that we have like before. So recovering fragment tokens and using adrenaline pills on each minefield of your mine board helps you draw more symbols accordingly, and that's something that you want to do. So let's see how this works in practice. Again, you flip the future board, you use it from the for the Oceanrealm side, which is this one. So for the perception here, the more recovered fragment tokens and used adrenaline pills you have on your perception minefield, the more wildlife symbols you can draw. Really cool. For the intelligence, the more recovered fragment tokens and used adrenaline pills you have, the more lake symbols you can draw. And last, for memory, for each recovered fragment token and used adrenaline pill on your memory minefield, you can draw one forest symbol. So this is how you use you draw more in your grid, okay, to protect them. And you can see that there are many symbols that you can draw according to your recovered fragments. And for plan A, which is a basic action, in the region where your adult figure is, you may draw wildlife, lake and forest symbols up to the number of allowed by the fragment tokens and adrenaline pills on your mineboard. You may draw symbols in a blank sector or in the industrial sector of the region, but never in a sector where you have already drawn a symbol. And for plan B, you choose another player's adult child figure in the region where the figure is, and you may draw symbols following the same rules as in plan A. The player whose figure you choose circles the leftmost uncircled number on their contribution track. If you draw a symbol in industrial sector and that sector is no longer considered industrial sector, so that the region has no industrial sector. This is important to remember for the final scoring, and once the sectors have symbol drawn, you can draw, you cannot of course draw another symbol in that region. Scoring is very interesting for the Oceanrealm dystopia. For plan A, I mean the specific additional scoring for the Oceanrealm dystopia. The plan A, protect land, grants you prosperity points according to the pattern of the symbols drawn on each region on your land map. 4 prosperity points for each fully drawn column on your land map. Industrial sections do not count as drawn. 2 prosperity points for every 2 wildlife symbols in a region with an industrial sector. 2 prosperity points for every 3 lake symbols in a region with an industrial sector. 2 prosperity points for every 5 forest symbols in a region with an industrial sector. And also prosperity points to the completion of the requirements for any of your gadget cards. For plan B, contribution, this grants you prosperity points equal to the rightmost circled number of your contribution track. So everything is based on what you have managed to circle here. And again, like before, with the gadgets, I just want to highlight that this is for the Extinction and this is for the Oceanrealm. You have separate gadgets that you use and they grant you additional opportunities for extra victory points, which is all it is. So there you have it. This is a game, dystopia module that also has a specific solo linked with it and specific rules in the rulebook. And now you have an overview of all of the dystopias. So there you have it. This is everything you need to know about how you play Restart. We focused mainly on the engine building, the card play, explaining fully in detail with examples the Pandemia modules and going with a brief description and introduction to the Anomie, the Extinction and the Oceanrealm separate modules, which essentially, as I said before, is a fantastic value because it's like having 4 games in one box with separate solos for each. So there you have it. Join me back up for my final impressions, first impressions from the game so far. Okay, so there you have it. You've seen all the rules of the game. I've been very scholastic and very detailed so that you can, replace the rulebook if you want, or you can see specific sections of the rules. But what is more and more important is that I believe the game prospers in many levels. And the first level it prospers and it shines, in my opinion, is the engine building of the game. The engine building is really nice. A lot of combinations, a lot of cards. Essentially it's engine building plus multi-use cards, because if you play a card for the event on the grid, you don't care about the text, the ability, which might be important. You don't care about the icons, which are additional bonus icons you can enable if you have enough fragments. You just care for the color. Okay, sorry, you care for the event, but you care for the color, for the patterns, and for the event. You don't care for the additional ability icons. I mean, if you play it on your mind board, you have to pay in time, so you take time tokens, which are very precious because you want them for validating chains, but you don't care about the ability, and you only care about the side icons, the victory points, the prosperity points that you're going to get at the end of the game, plus the bonus icons, because you can build your engine through that. And this is really nice. The ability of the hero is really nice also, because ability of heroes are really important. In my last session I had the ability, for example, to bury cards. Whenever I validate a card, to bury a card, and I managed to get a lot of victory points from synergies from validating a lot of easy chain cards and burying a lot of chain cards and progressing on, you know, on the buried on the cards on the slots where I had a lot of buried cards to gain more victory points, and this gave me the victory in our last 3-player game, for example. Really enjoyed it. A really great game in terms of the engine building. I really enjoyed the pattern building. Again, when I saw it for the first time, I thought, oh my god, it's going to be chaotic. I love the game, but I was afraid that, you know, you're going to have a pattern, and by the time it's your turn, 2 turns later or whatever, they're going to have completely messed your pattern. You won't be able to make any grids. And every single turn I made a validation of a chain card. Of course, I opted to make more cards with a lower level, level 1, which were easier. But even in one case where my opponent has messed up completely the grid for me, I already had it ready and I was about to execute it on my next turn, because you can only validate 1 card at a time. On my next turn I was waiting for, I was hoping, crossing my fingers that he didn't mess it so that I can validate again and validate the second card. And it was completely messed up. All 3 cards of the chain were messed up. And I managed, through the synergy and the boost and the assist actions and everything, to rebuild the pattern and again validate it. So the reason I'm stressing this out is that don't be scared that this is a game where it's chaotic, and when by the time it's your turn you cannot plan, you cannot do anything, you have to start from the beginning. There are a lot of things going on, and there is a lot of possibilities, and the more stronger you become, the more options you have is to manipulate dice, to manipulate things depending on, you know, I don't know, chromosome cards, or to manipulate anything you really want, even the grid itself, in a very efficient way, so you get the most victory points out of that. Great solo, great as multiplayer. Maybe, I'm saying it from my impressions at least, I never had the opportunity to try it as a 4-player, but I believe that it would be a bit of it will have a bit of downtime for 4 players, unless everybody has played it a couple of times and they can play faster. Meaning, if your first play is a 4-player game, you'll feel a bit of downtime, I think, because you have to play 4 phases each player before you go to the next player, But as a first experience with 2 players, it's fantastic. With 3 players, it's good. I think with 4 players, it's better that you play it after you had a couple of sessions under your belt. The dystopia module part of the game, amazing. I'm just going to mention one thing, just to not to make this video extra long, is that for the Pandemia module, it felt so sweet, because I was focusing on my engine building and then having a glance back at, oh, my opponents are trying to get a lead in the virus or the cure track, and I need to take advantage and play my cards so that I can also progress there. So it's like a switch between focus, but without losing the your design, your idea, your train of thought, if you wish. It's done smoothly, really smoothly, and it just kept me in check. Exploring also, the opportunities for the modules, rebalancing if I'm behind just to get ahead again or whatever, building my engine building, making validation with chain cards, etc., pattern building, in a very smooth way. Really elegant. I really enjoyed how much fun I had with the game, how satisfying my sessions felt, building to the second and third round, close to the end. Regardless of winning or not winning, you feel that you're doing something, you feel that you're progressing, you feel that you're leveling up in engine building, you feel that you're accomplishing things with the dystopian portion of the game really well. Now, don't get me started in terms of looks and table presence. Even though this game has mainly cards, the player board, the mind board, is absolutely amazing, excellent quality, even as a prototype. I mean, I was drooling with the prototype. It looks amazing. The miniatures are awesome, really awesome. I mean, they have fantastic level of detail, even though they could have been wooden markers. Just move one wooden marker there of your color, a larger one for the adult self and a shorter one for your younger self. It's so nice that you have minis, and they look gorgeous, and I just wish that they're so great minis that they may, I really wish that they use them in other games, if they have other similar games in the future, or in they build up the universe with another game, another design. Also the replayability of the cards, different art on each card, very unique card, very large cards, nice icons, large, easy to read them, thematic art, everything clicked really nice for me. Okay, still it's an engine building Euro game with a specific well crafted and sewed together mechanisms like pattern building, management, hand management, resource management, leveling up in terms of leveling up your engine building aspect, layering and other things, King of the Hill with the Anomie module, etc. Depending on the module also have different mechanisms kicking in, but overall, what an experience, what an amazing experience. I highly recommend it. It's one of the best engine, it's the best engine building game I played this year. It has tremendous value, it has great gameplay, it has a lot of different ways to play the game, also perfect for solo, so highly recommend it. You should definitely check it out, and the crowdfunding Kickstarter campaign page, it's launching soon. Many thanks for watching.